Hello, everyone. My name is Gus.
Hi, I'm Woody.
Today we have a video that was requested. It's called The Most Mysterious Cave Diving Mission Ever. I don't know, a mission?
Difficult?
All right, let's give it a shot and see.
That's the least you've ever talked.
I
talk this video? No.
I don't know what else to say. It's a
That's
mission.
actually refreshing.
It's a mission. All right.
Today we will be looking at two horrifying caving stories that went horribly wrong.
Whoa.
Both of them have one thing in common: how underwater caves are always a gamble with life if you're not careful enough.
Okay.
As always,
you know what I'm saying?
Is that an exaggeration? I'm going to ask you your opinion. Seriously.
Gamble with life?
Is that an exaggeration? Now, you said huge exaggeration. I'm going to...
Yes, you're not gambling.
And I'm going to say that...
If you're a cave diver.
What I always say. I think cave diving is very, very dangerous. I know I get criticized for this a lot. I do. I think it's really dangerous.
I think it's dangerous.
And if you go in and do cave diving and aren't properly trained and properly certified and follow those procedures, I do think you're actually gambling with your life.
No, I think you're pretty much about to die. I don't think it's gambling.
Oh, okay.
Well, it's like
Good
if you put a gun to your head and pull the trigger, are you gambling? I don't.
Yeah,
That's a
okay.
pretty certain thing.
Yeah.
So I think you could say that driving on an interstate in any country, it's gambling with your life. Like how much? Like where is your threshold of gambling with your life?
Right.
And it's always weird to have this discussion with non-cave divers,
Yeah.
especially non-divers. Non-divers are the most vocal. Like it is.
Yes. Why do you do
It's
it?
a death wish. Like, bro, you're not even a diver. Like, what are we talking about? Is it dangerous? Yes. Highly dangerous? I don't think so. If it was highly dangerous, I wouldn't do it. Personally. If that was convinced that this is highly dangerous, I'm about to probably die. Like on the next dive, most likely we won't come out because it's highly dangerous, then I wouldn't do it. Because I don't have a suicide, wish. I think it's dangerous, but I think all of the training and preparation and the careful selection of the place where we're going and the dive that we're doing and the people we're diving with
And the gear checking.
all of that
Right.
makes it as safe as humanly possible.
And do you think
can
the
you still die? Sure.
And
but-
you think the rebreathers, because
yeah.
I want to make sure I'm saying this right. Yeah, I've actually only one time open circuit cave dive. I have one time.
Yeah.
It was with Medi because we had to.
You can't bring anything in there.
It would not have fit.
Yeah. Shangri-La. Insane.
But my head barely fit.
Yeah.
So I think rebreathers, what I'm saying, actually adds a big element of safety.
Yeah. I mean, I think that if you would say that cave diving is gambling with your life, then you would say that about skydiving. You would say that about climbing is gambling with your life. You would say that about like a bunch of different activities. Whereas I feel like a lot of those activities are pretty safe. Like I assume skydiving accidents are pretty rare. They still happen. People still die probably every year skydiving, but they are rare. Like out of millions and millions of jumps. I'm not a skydiver. I don't want to be a skydiver, but I consider skydiving fairly safe. It's a dangerous activity. Some people die once in a while, but I would consider it a safe activity. So anyway, that's just, he lost me when he said cave diving is gambling with your life. I don't agree.
Discretion is advised. On the evening of Saturday, September 26th, 1981,
Back in the
an
day.
experienced scuba diver entered the waters of Big Shoals Lake Cave in Arkansas, embarking on a dive with a highly unusual goal. Armed with a fishing line baited with multiple 5-pound catfish, he intended
What?
to place it deep inside an underwater cave in hopes of luring a massive 70-pound fish rumored to inhabit the cavernous depths. It was an endeavor that blended ambition with recklessness, a dive that would ultimately cost him horribly. The diver, whose name has been lost to time, was not a novice. With a NAU-I certification and 8 years of experience,
NAU-I.
he was certainly capable in open water diving.
Okay, so this guy, this is narrated by ChatGPT.
Sounds like an AI to me.
Yeah, so the NAUI is
Naui.
Naui. Naui is the name of it. It's just like nobody calls Patty P-A-D-I. Patty. And Naui is another big agency. They certify, thousands or maybe millions of divers every year. Who knows? But it's a very well-known agency. But the weird part is not that, is how he said that, is the fact that this guy went into a cave with 5-pound catfish as bait trying to catch a 70-pound catfish. Like, what are you talking about? And that's one question that we get often is, do you see any wildlife inside caves? And the answer is yes. We see catfish in Florida. We see catfish, and we also see those translucent critters, which I learned during one of the cave diving workshops that we did, that there's like 4 or 5 different kinds of them. They all look the same to me, but there's 4 or 5.
Millipedes or all that. Is that the right word?
Millipedes,
centipedes.
Anyway,
we see on the sea.
They are tiny. They're tiny. And there's multiple ones, and they're all translucent. But the catfish that we see, like, what's the biggest one you've seen? It's like
not
this
even,
big, right?
Yeah.
This guy wants to catch a 70-pound Goliath grouper size.
I saw one. I never saw that.
But it was 81. Back then, they thought, smoking was healthy. Like, it's like, who knows?
No seatbelts, no car seats, no helmets.
81. Hey, by the way, have you seen the video? If you haven't seen it, you need to go Google this thing. It's the funniest video. When they introduced drinking and driving laws in Texas and they interviewed people.
And they were mad, right?
It's the best.
I haven't seen it.
It's so funny. People are like, well, now I guess you can't have a beer when you're driving like a normal person. And like some lady was like with a kid, like not in a car seat. And it's like, I guess you can't even drink and drive anymore. Yeah, what kind of country? We're going to be China.
Just taking my rights away. How am I going to drive when I'm not wasted?
What are we doing?
How am I going to drive?
What are we doing?
I mean,
what kind of communist wasteland is this?
What's a whiskey going to do? Give me a break.
You should Google, YouTube this and go watch. It's funny. But anyway, in 81, they probably thought they were 70-pound catfish. Of course, there's 70-pound catfish in the caves.
We thought everything.
But 80, by the way, was like 100 years ago.
No, like, that was just...
This looks like it was yesterday.
80, I was just hanging out.
45. What is it? 81 was 44 years ago. It's a lot, dude. 44 years ago.
That's what happened to me? That is unbelievable.
Wow.
I don't know what happened.
All right.
NAIUI, or National Association of Underwater Instructors, is one of the world's leading scuba diving certification agencies.
True.
It provides training for recreational, technical, and professional divers, emphasizing safety and responsible diving practices. However, experience in open water does not necessarily translate to cave diving expertise, which requires specialized training, redundant air supplies, and rigorous safety protocols.
Yep.
Despite this, he entered the water alone, violating one of the cardinal rules of cave diving: never dive solo.
Is that
the intention
not a
of
rule?
his dive was peculiar.
No.
Most divers explore underwater.
I'll pause
that one I actually don't.
It should be. I think you and I agree that it should be.
But in our cave diving class, I've actually never heard that as a rule.
No.
That's not one of the 5 rules.
Right. There's
Why?
5 rules to
So
cave
you would
diving,
say,
but diving solo
now you
is
could
not
go
one of them.
through a whole discussion. Why isn't never dive alone a rule in cave diving? And I think it gets back to what you said, and I noticed that I didn't interrupt you, so I'm hoping I get the same. Of all of the redundancy that we have in cave diving, all the training we have, all the special procedures we have, actually enable you to potentially be even a safer diver than people that dive in open water alone. You're probably safer diving alone in a cave with all of that training than you are diving alone in open water, because they simply don't have that redundancy in training.
Unless you bring all that equipment and redundancy to open water.
That's different.
Yeah.
That's different.
But you're right. And again, never dive alone is not a cave diving rule or a cardinal cave diving rule or whatever. It's a rule that we follow. We don't dive in caves alone, but it's not like a rule that you're breaking if you're diving alone. As a matter of fact, there's a lot of well-respected cave divers and explorers who only like to dive alone when they're doing those gnarly dives.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Water caves for adventure or scientific study. But this man sought to use his dive as an elaborate fishing expedition, attempting to trap a colossal fish believed to lurk in the cave's depths. Witnesses saw him disappear into the cave. He never resurfaced. When the diver failed to return, concerns mounted. Hours passed before authorities were notified, and a search and rescue operation was set in motion. Leading the effort was William Burns from Missouri, a seasoned cave diver, alongside a recovery team from Kansas City, Missouri. They arrived late Sunday evening, well over 24 hours after the diver had entered the cave. The initial goal was a rescue mission, but it soon became evident that they might be dealing with a body recovery unless something miraculous happens. But the odds were slim, since in such conditions, survival beyond a few hours without proper air supply was impossible. Tom Cook, another experienced diver, was contacted to provide additional support. He activated an NCFC diving team, but the alert was later rescinded when it was determined that the man was beyond saving. William Burns was the first to brave the cave's depths. As he descended, he encountered the diver's fishing line, still extending into the murky void. The baited hooks were untouched, offering no sign of struggle, just an eerie stillness. Pushing further, Burns found himself navigating increasingly restrictive passageways.
Cool.
The cave, like many underwater systems, was a labyrinth of tight squeezes, jagged rock formations, and silt-covered floors that clouded visibility with even the slightest disturbance.
Yeah.
At one point, the passage narrowed drastically,
Sounds awesome.
reducing to an opening of a passage only 16 to 20 inches in height. Visibility was highly poor, ranging from near zero to no more than 5 inches. The water was thick with silt, making it impossible to see beyond an arm's length. It was at this juncture that Burns made the difficult decision to stop and resurface. There was no sign of the missing diver. The Kansas City recovery team arrived shortly thereafter, working in pairs to comb through the cave's passageways. However, the search was fraught with challenges. The cave's tight restrictions and low visibility made even the most experienced divers cautious. Safety lines and air hoses repeatedly became entangled in the unseen obstacles, adding to the dangers. One of the rescue divers, determined to push beyond Burns' stopping point, squeezed through a narrow passage, pulling himself into a new chamber. As he did so, a large rock dislodged from the ceiling, striking him in the face.
Yikes.
He was shaken and badly hurt. The pain he felt was unbearable.
By the way, we've never had that happen.
Having a rock
A massive rock
yeah.
dislodge and block a passageway or hurt one of us. We've just never had it.
Yeah.
Little stuff has fallen before,
Yeah.
but I've never seen that.
No.
Fortunately, he survived the impact, but was forced to retreat due to the unstable environment. The cave was proving to be just as dangerous for the rescuers as it had been for the lost diver.
Look at that
Despite
tank trim.
extensive
Beautiful.
efforts, no body was found. It became increasingly clear that the diver had become trapped or drifted deeper into an inaccessible part of the cave. But the question remained, what went wrong? Several factors may have contributed to the diver's demise. Entanglement in his own fishing line. One of the most plausible theories is that the diver became entangled in the very fishing line he had set.
Yeah.
Cave diving already presents an extreme entrapment risk. And the presence of an unsecured line running through the passageways only increased the chances of an accident.
You can get tangled in a line pretty easily.
For sure.
You can. It's amazing how easy it is because you can't really see, or I don't know whether I'm trying to use the right word. How do I say? Your tanks are side mount, okay?
Yeah.
You have a lot of stuff that is not that easy to reach back there.
Right.
So it's difficult if it gets wrapped around like the back part of a side mount tank. It's difficult to reach it. They're not that easy to take off. I'm not saying you shouldn't be able to or whatever, but it's not as easy as you think. So you better have a cutting device, man. You may have to cut out of that.
Yeah, and it's one of the things that we work on during cave diving training, which is redundancy even for cutting devices. So there's a couple things. Number one, and I talked about this in one of our workshops at the Dive Talk meetup. I was doing a workshop about line, just running line and stuff like that. And one of the things I mentioned is when you have the spool with a bolt snap or a double ender, to never attach the double ender directly on the spool. The reason for that is that all of your gear on you should be able to cut away if you get trapped, entangled, etc. In addition to be able to cut anything, like imagine you have a flashlight and that gets caught and wrapped around or whatever, you should be able to cut between the bolt snap and the light. That should be line, or it should be something, because people put zip ties. How do you cut a zip tie? It's harder. Or they use like one of those metal rings or whatever, those metal links, and they hook with metal, you can't cut metal. So everything should be line or something, a bungee that you can cut and sever. So like you mentioned, your tank is hard. Sometimes it's just locked in place. Yeah. We are bungeed into the tank. You can cut the bungee, and even the bolt snap from the tank itself, that's attached with line, like a line that you can cut. So anything you have on you, if you get tangled, you should be able to cut.
That's a good point.
And in addition to that, we have redundant cutting devices. So here's my computer, for example, that I dive with for the rebreather. If you notice, he has a cutting device right there. That's it's on my left, and I can just pull it out. So it looks like this. If I'm wearing this, imagine this is the computer. So right behind here, I can pour away, and that is my cutting device, right? And in addition to that, I have one near my hip.
Yeah, me too.
So I can take this one out or here, but if my hand is caught behind my back like this or something, I can just deploy from my hip and cut, right? I can reach and cut. So we have multiple cutting devices, multiple lights, multiple tanks, multiple of everything when you're cave diving. And if you get entangled, first you shouldn't just cut the line willy-nilly because you're going to have to repair it. But try to untangle yourself. But if you can't, like you mentioned, you can get entangled. I have multiple times, and you've saved me multiple times because you easily can get entangled, including one before I dive at Eagle's Nest, which was with fishing line. Exactly
Remember
how
that?
this guy got
Fishing
tangled.
line is everywhere. You can't see it.
No, I was just swimming,
really
and all of
can't.
a sudden, it's like my legs are trapped, and
I
I'm
would
like,
have been tangled too there.
Woody.
It's like this line is.
You can't see it.
Can't
So
see
it's
it.
not that, only inexperienced divers get entangled. No, if you can't see it, I don't care who you can be the Michael Jordan of cave diving. You're going to get tangled.
Definitely.
If the line wrapped around his gear or limbs, he may have struggled to free himself, depleting his oxygen in the process. Equipment failure or panic. It's possible that an equipment failure, such as a regulator malfunction or a ruptured hose, left him without a viable air supply. Alternatively, he could have panicked after losing his bearings in the dark, silty water. Even experienced divers can succumb to disorientation in such conditions, leading to fatal mistakes. The cave's unforgiving nature. With tight squeezes, falling rocks, and zero visibility, the cave itself was a death trap. Without clear guidelines or exit markers, even a well-trained diver could become hopelessly lost.
Yeah.
If the diver ventured too deep and ran out of air before finding his way back, he would have succumbed to hypoxia and drowned. Silt out and complete darkness. Underwater caves are notorious for silt outs, where fine sediment is stirred up, reducing visibility to absolute zero. If the diver inadvertently kicked up silt while maneuvering, he would have been plunged into darkness, unable to see his way out.
True.
In such a scenario, even the best divers struggle to navigate safely. After exhaustive efforts, the search was called off. The cave had claimed its victim, and recovery was deemed too dangerous. To this day, his body remains somewhere in the depths of Big Shoals Lake.
Whoa,
a
they
grim
never got
reminder
this
of
guy?
the risks inherent in cave diving. For many, this incident serves as a harsh lesson in what not to do. Cave diving demands meticulous preparation, proper equipment, and strict adherence to safety protocols.
Yes.
True.
Ignoring these rules, even for a seemingly harmless goal like setting a fishing trap, can have deadly consequences. His ambition to catch a legendary fish cost him his life, and the cave remains his final resting place. Despite search efforts, his body was never found, swallowed by the dark abyss he had hoped to conquer. This tragedy underscores several important cave diving principles. Solo cave diving is one of the most dangerous activities in the world. Had the diver been with a buddy, he might have had a chance to escape. Being an experienced open water diver does not make one qualified for cave diving.
100%.
The specialized skills required for navigating underwater caves are critical for survival. The fishing line was an unnecessary hazard. In the confined, dark environment of an underwater cave, foreign objects increase entanglement risks. Cave divers must be prepared for silt outs and low visibility conditions.
True.
Without a clear return path, divers can easily become lost and run out of air. Not all underwater caves should be entered, even by the most skilled divers. When conditions are too extreme, the best decision is to stay out. This next story is even more terrifying to watch.
Let's just add one level of clarity in here, which is totally accurate. By the way, this guy is on point.
Yeah,
or if it was ChatGPT, whatever. I think some people listened to that last comment and they jumped out. And the comment was, some caves nobody should enter. And some people will be like, well, if you're a cave diver and certified or experienced or whatever, why? Well, some caves are super dangerous. For example, siphons. So if you have a siphon, that means current that is pulling you into the cave, which happens a lot in like ocean caves, for example. Even if you are, like I said earlier, the Michael Jordan of cave diving, you should probably consider not entering a siphon. Now, there's people who do this. We have featured people like Robbie Schmittner, for example, who's a legendary cave explorer in Mexico. He has entered siphons before, but these have to be planned and you have to have extra skills. I think out of the stuff that he mentioned, which is even the most seasoned open water divers shouldn't enter caves, that's 100% true. Most of the deaths, I feel like, from non-cave divers who have died in caves are from experienced open water divers that feel that, well, I'm a really good diver. How hard can it be? And then they go in there, they get lost, and they die. Especially instructors. Open water instructors, I don't know why. I think that there's part of it that is the industry. I think the industry has set themselves to make instructors feel like that is the end goal, the tip of the spear. If you become an open water instructor, there's nowhere else for you to go. Like, that's it. That's the black belt. The best diver in the world is an instructor. And that's not true. And that's not to say that cave divers are some kind of like special kind of humans. It's just people that have spent the time to learn skills and protocols that makes cave diving safer. Not 100% safe, but way safer than just being an open water instructor and going in there. So, yeah, I feel like the danger of believing that you are the tip of the spear, I can do anything as an instructor, is real. And I feel like channels like us and others have done a good job shedding light on that and preventing potential deaths from people who would venture in, especially in places like Mexico where they do cenote tours for anybody. You don't have to be a cave diver. And I've seen messages that we have received in the past from people. It's like, hey, I was in Mexico. Somebody offered me to do a cenote tour. And I said no, because I watched your channel and I got spooked that they were going to take me into a cave. I'm not a cave diver. I'm an instructor, but I'm not a cave diver. I didn't feel safe. I said no. Good for you. Don't just get forced and lulled into an adventure because you think you're a great diver. It's not about being great. It's about having the know-how, the skills, and the knowledge to prevent this from being dangerous and dying.
On the weekend
Well
of
said.
April 12th, 1980, a group of divers from Texas arrived
Jonathan
at
Burdick.
Vortex Springs in Holmes County, Florida. Among them were Ronnie Tyner, 24, Johnny Swan, 24, Merritt R. Steger, 24, and Russell D. Hill, 23. The four men, eager for adventure, planned to explore the depths of the water-filled cave system at Vortex Springs, a popular but notoriously dangerous diving site. Vortex Springs had long been a magnet for cave divers, drawing thrill-seekers from across the country. However, the site carried a grim reputation. By that time, it had already claimed 24 lives. The neighboring Morrison Spring in Walton County had an even deadlier tally, with 28 reported fatalities. Cave diving, as many experienced divers knew, was one of the most perilous forms of underwater exploration, demanding rigorous training, careful planning, and unwavering discipline. For many, the cave was irresistible, the promise of a world hidden beneath the surface, filled with winding passages and submerged tunnels, called to those seeking a challenge. The four young men, full of confidence and enthusiasm, likely spent hours planning their dive, discussing the route, and making final checks on their gear. They might have watched other divers disappear into the depths and emerge later with stories of mesmerizing rock formations and the surreal silence of the underwater cavern. The group had some diving experience but lacked the specialized cave diving certifications required for such an environment. However, as many before them had done, they likely felt confident in their ability to push past the boundaries. Perhaps they believed their open water diving skills were enough. What awaited them, though, was a silent, dark world that
what
would
you were
demand
just saying.
perfection and execution, something
Yeah.
few divers achieve in an uncontrolled setting. As they suited up, the air was filled with the rhythmic hissing of regulators being tested,
That
the clinking of
ChatGPT is
metal
in full
buckles,
force.
and the distant echo of voices from other divers preparing for their own excursions. Sunlight danced on the rippling surface of the spring, offering one last glimpse of warmth and safety before they plunged into the unknown. The four divers entered the water, their
script.
bubbles breaking the calm surface as they adjusted their gear. Their fins stirred up the sandy bottom, momentarily clouding the water before the flow of the spring carried the silt away. As they moved forward, the light from the entrance gradually faded, replaced by the eerie glow of their dive lights cutting through the cold, clear water. The deeper they ventured, the more the outside world became a distant memory. The silence was absolute, broken only by the sound of their steady breathing through their regulators. They moved in practiced formation, maintaining visibility of one another as they navigated the cavernous expanse. The limestone walls of the cave loomed around them, appearing smooth in some areas and jagged in others, etched by centuries of water flow. At approximately 250 feet into the cave, they reached a posted stop sign, a clear warning marking the furthest point that divers without cave diving certification were supposed to go. The sign was not just a suggestion, it was a final reminder of the dangers that lay beyond. The fluorescent letters loomed in the dim light, an undeniable marker that they were about to cross into forbidden territory. Many divers before them had turned back here, heeding the cautionary advice of experts who understood the deadly risks beyond this point. Despite this, the group pressed forward. They attached a thin, twine-like line to mark their path and continued deeper into the labyrinthine cave system.
Do you remember what year this was? He said it at the beginning, but I forgot it. And the reason why I'm asking is
Thinking about Ed or something.
at Vortex Springs, although it is true that you can go pretty far into the cave, which they call a cavern, but by the time you get to where the sign used to be, they moved it. But this, where the sign used to be, you're pretty deep into the cave at that point. They have a metal gate, and with a lock and key. You cannot go into the cave unless you have that key, and they only give the key to certified cave divers. So this whole story is saying that these 4 guys weren't cave divers. They were experienced open water divers, but not cave divers, which means they wouldn't have gotten the key, which means they wouldn't have been able to go into the cave. So there's something missing. It has to be that perhaps cave divers went in and the door was open or something before them, or maybe they did this before the mesh was installed. First time I went to Vortex Springs was in 2018, and the metal was there. So it's been, if I had to say, it had to be before 2018. I don't remember exactly, but right now what they're doing is impossible to do unless you're a certified cave diver and you get that key. I've never done Vortex Springs Cave. I've been to Vortex Springs numerous times. I've been with you. We were practicing on DPV before we took the class with Ed and failed miserably. We talked about this on the channel. But the metal gate is pretty far from the entrance.
Paying out the line behind them. This line was supposed to be their lifeline, guiding them back to safety should visibility drop or panic set in. But in their inexperience, they had chosen an inadequate material, thin and easily tangled. It would soon become their worst enemy. The water temperature dropped as they advanced. The sensation of cold creeping through their wetsuits was a reminder of how far they had come from the sunlit world above. They moved deeper, carefully maneuvering through tight passages, their dive light sweeping across the submerged terrain. Occasionally, their beams caught glimpses of small fish darting into cracks in the rock, their movements barely disturbing the stillness of the cave. Then, something changed. Whether it was a shift in current, a sudden loss of visibility due to disturbed silt, or simply the overwhelming realization of how deep they had gone, unease likely settled in. Their exit was now hundreds of feet away, and they had ventured beyond the point where simple mistakes could be corrected. Every movement had to be deliberate, every breath measured. Yet, in the silent depths of the cave, something was about to go terribly wrong. No one knows exactly what happened next, but the possibilities are chilling. Hours passed, and the 4 men failed to resurface.
Oh boy.
Concerned, other divers in the area alerted authorities, and a rescue operation was launched. The local sheriff coordinated efforts, and experienced cave rescue divers were brought in. Among them was Johnny Manuel, a seasoned diver who had seen his fair share of underwater tragedies. What he and the other rescuers found painted a horrifying picture. The 4 divers were located approximately 100 feet beyond the stop sign. They were entangled in their own safety line, their bodies frozen in a chaotic tangle of limbs and twine. Their knives, meant for emergency situations, remained sheathed on their legs. They had made no attempt to cut themselves free. They were in about as big a mess as I've ever seen, Manuel later recalled.
Dang.
This thin line was all over them. I imagine they got all tangled up, and one of them panicked, and everybody got in trouble.
Yeah.
Their bodies were found in a state that suggested utter chaos in their final moments.
Twisted.
None knew exactly what had happened, but the clues they found told them enough to speculate. Several theories were drawn, starting with the panic theory. One plausible theory is that one of the divers became entangled first. Perhaps he lost control of his buoyancy, rising slightly and causing slack in the line to wrap around him. As he struggled, his movements may have drawn the others in, pulling them into the growing web of twine. In their frantic attempts to escape, their struggles only made things worse. The more they fought, the more the line constricted, sealing their fate.
By the way, there's one thing that you learn in cave diving training when it comes to getting tangled in line, which is stop moving.
Definitely stop.
Step one, stop moving.
Relax. Time to really think carefully about your next move. And I would probably recommend you know exactly where your knife is. And if you start
Work with your body.
just slow and work with your body.
Hey, come here and help me out. Your body will figure it out and get out of
But
it.
if you're kicking and moving and all of that it's just your buddy can't help you. Your buddy's going to be like, stop. Like I would come up to you and be like, just stop. You can't do anything anymore.
Yeah.
As
Stop.
the diver,
This is the sign for
I got
stop.
you.
Stop.
So, and then let me figure out what's going on.
Yeah. And another thing that I wanted to mention is I think if there's one part of cave diving that is misunderstood or perhaps underestimated might be the right word here, is line work. Dealing with line when you're diving is way more complicated than you think. I want you, if you're not a diver, to think of how hard could it be to work with line and then double or triple that. It's way harder. During cave diving training, which takes about 10 days total, between your 3 days that you spend cavern, then I think you spend 3 days doing intro to cave, then I think 3 or 4 more doing full cave, doing all that time. If I had to break how much time you spend doing line work, learning line work, especially because you start on dry, you start on land doing line work, I would say at least a third of the entire cave diving training, if not half of it, you're working on line.
Oh, yeah.
Line work is extensive, is harder than you think, and is even harder to master. So, yeah, just some divers grab line and let's just go. You're probably going to end up like these guys. You're going to get entangled and you're going to drown. So, please.
You're not even going to tie it off right. I mean, we have to learn the very big basics.
Yeah.
How do you tie it off? Where do you tie it off?
Yeah.
Right? You know, the counter pull after you go through the loop and 3 times around the first one, 2 times around the second one. When the overhang starts, then 1 and 1 and 1 in that direction of which way you're pulling it to wrap back around. These are... Who
It's
would
a
know
lot
that? Would
of
you
work.
know that? I would probably have just taken a line and...
You can't figure it out.
I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know. Make a knot? Do you just make a knot? Or like, you gotta
these
learn.
are things that, again, are kind of underestimated on
Yeah,
how
it's hard.
complicated it is
With flow.
with flow to figure
So
this
you're
out.
getting blown,
Yeah.
and so is your line,
Yeah.
and you have to control the line so it doesn't end up doing exactly what happened here. It's hard.
It is
It's very hard.
Very hard.
Divers are trained to remain calm, but training is one thing. Actual terror is another. In the pitch-black environment, with dwindling air supplies and rising fear, rational thought likely evaporated. The divers had sheathed knives strapped to their legs, but in their panic, they never thought to use them. The situation escalated rapidly, leaving them with no way out. The air supply theory. Another possibility is that they miscalculated their air supply. Cave diving requires careful gas management,
That could
as
happen.
divers must plan for both their descent and their return.
Yep.
If they ventured too far, they may have realized too late that they lacked enough air to get back. In a desperate bid to escape, they may have turned in the wrong direction, expending energy and oxygen at a critical moment. As their tanks emptied, their breathing would have become labored. The rising carbon dioxide levels in their bloodstream would have triggered an overwhelming sense of suffocation, intensifying their panic.
I could see that
They may
happen.
have scrambled for the exit, only to ensnare themselves further. Their last moments were likely filled with mounting dread as the reality of their predicament set in. The light failure theory. A third theory suggests that a loss of light contributed to their doom. If their primary lights failed and they lacked backup illumination, they would have been plunged into absolute darkness.
Yeah.
In such conditions, even a well-trained diver can become disoriented. Without visual reference points, they may have reached for their guideline only to find it tangled beyond use. In the blackness, their sense of direction would have crumbled. Their breathing would have quickened, consuming more of their already limited air supply. Each movement could have further twisted the line around them, sealing their fate. Whatever the case, the deaths of Tyner, Swan, Stagger, and Hill added to the growing list of fatalities at Vortex Springs. Their story became yet another cautionary tale for divers worldwide. Vortex Springs, like many underwater caves, is an unforgiving place and highlights something really important. When the warning signs say, "Stop," they are there for a reason. Ignoring them can cost a diver their life.
Yep. Whew. Yeah, man. It's
I know. It's funny you did that. I feel the same. You can imagine. It's like feeling that feeling, like almost imagining that panicky feeling, and they're just sitting there helpless. They can't think. They may have built up CO2. Man, that must have been a terrible, terrible moment for them.
one of the great things I think that we have nowadays is YouTube. I'm a big fan of YouTube. I watch YouTube all the time outside of Dive Talk and all that. I think is the greatest platform, and I think it's the second most visited website in the world, by the way, behind Google. So Google Alphabet owns the top 2 most visited websites in the world. They're struggling to make money, clearly. But the point is, a lot of these caves, you can actually watch video of people diving them. You don't have to venture yourself into them. If you really want to see what they look like, go check it out. Vortex Springs is one of those caves. There are video of it. Very underwhelming. Like every video I've watched, I've never been like, dude, we got to go dive this thing. It's the opposite of the one we featured a few weeks ago, the Mount Salamanga or whatever it was called, where Patrick Whitman and Phil, like immediately as soon as I saw that, I'm like, I want to go right now and go dive this thing. Vortex is the exact opposite. And it's not about the danger thing. Like that the dangerous part is not what makes me not want to go there. It's the fact that you watch the video and you're like, this looks like whatever. It's just like sand and like there's nothing really appealing about it. I'm not gonna go out of. I'd rather go to Jackson Blue, which is like an hour away, and there's just way more beautiful things to see. So yeah, Vortex Springs. Like I don't get it. I don't see the appeal behind it. But anyway, it's one of those that we're gonna do one of these days. We're just gonna go and check it out of the list because a lot of people do it. It's a memorable place. So we're gonna end up there someday. But earlier, I think on this video, you mentioned a tight restriction. Or I think you mentioned the only dive that you've done in open circuit, which was Shangri-La.
And the tightest I've ever been.
I don't think people have seen that video enough and give you enough credit for how tight that was. One of the videos, by the way, only the few videos, by the way, that we made a member edition, which is longer. It has like 30 minutes more footage than the regular video that we release publicly. But I'm going to leave the public one right here. And if you feel compelled to watch the extended version, sign up as a member. Just click the join button down here. Sign up, be one of the members, and enjoy the extended Shangri-La video. See more of Woody being squeezed to death.
Couldn't even tell. Couldn't fit my face. Would not fit.
I didn't even go on that one.
It was tight.
We'll see you on the next one.